Welcome everyone. This is the 131st episode of the Source Seeker Hour, and we have part 2 of our special panel, Different Lifestyles, Different Relationships. And I welcome my guest, many-time guest, my friend, my loud spirit, Miss Cassandra, and she's going to introduce herself. But I also want to mention my friend and neighbor, Mr. Javier, first time on the show. And we're going to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves. Cassandra, go ahead.
Well, my name is Cassandra Barnes. I am a registered nurse for 35 plus years and also a licensed psychotherapist. I am the owner of the Victoria Barnes Mental Health and Wellness Center, where I am a fully comprehensive mental health, wellness, and counseling service. And I am absolutely grateful to be invited back again to share my insight with this very volatile at times subject matter. So I count it an honor and a privilege to be able to come back and share my thought processes and my insight.
Well, thank you as always. Brother Javier.
Amazing.
You have the floor.
How you guys doing this evening? My name is Brother Javier. I'm a trucker for 23 and a half years, father of 4, a grandparent of 3. Also, I'm a Forex trader, 49 years of age. So that gave me a little experience in life. I've been divorced, been in different relationships as far as intimate, platonic, and just looking to hear the insight of our professional we have on this evening. Thank you for having me, Mr. Brody.
Real good and powerful, brother. Sister Carolyn, you want to speak? You want to chime in, or you want to wait?
What?
There you go.
I just got here. I'm sorry. What's the
Okay, well, what we're talking about, we've introduced, and everybody's introducing themselves at this particular time. So you actually came in right on time to be the next person to introduce yourself. However, if you would like to wait, I will start the show and move forward. And then you can come back and introduce yourself later. What would you like to do?
Okay, I'm Carolyn Williams. I came last time and I learned a lot, so I thought I'd join today.
Well, thank you very much. That's very good. Last time we started talking about love, what is family? We talked about the definition, and we had different outlooks on those definitions. How you doing, Nikita? I'll be right with you in 1 second. I wanted to go back to the definition of love that we talked about last time. One of them is a great interest and pleasure in something. The definition of family that I came up with was 2 or more people who act in love and support for one another. And I just wanted to review that because I have 2 new definitions that I want to share and bring to the panel. Sister Nikita, how are you doing? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Okay. Let me tell her real quick she's on mute. You got it? Okay. Well, the definitions I want to talk about this time is companion and relationship. What do those things mean? And I'm going to share my definition. Relationship, the way in which 2 or more people or 2 or more concepts, objects, or people are connected or in the process of being connected. Another definition for relationship is the way in which 2 or more people or groups regard and behave toward each other. So I asked, do you think those definitions are valid? Nikita, I asked you, do you think those are valid, as well as give your introduction?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to be honest, I was trying to get my microphone to work and I only heard half of what you said. Can you give
Okay,
it to
well, let me
again?
share. Would you like me to share it again, or you
Yes,
just,
please.
okay? I gave two definitions. First, I talked about the definitions we had last show of love and family. But this time I have two definitions of relationship and companion. And the definition I had of relationship is the way in which two or more concepts or objects are connected together or in the process of being connected. And a second definition is the way in which two or more people or groups are regard or behave toward each other.
My name is Nikita Bowman. I'm a licensed professional counselor and life coach with the company I started called Tackle Your Dreams, which is a nonprofit organization that provides mental health care for Black, Brown, and queer folks in Texas, as well as worldwide. We center around positive, sex positive, alternative relationships, and of course the LGBTQ community, but we serve everybody. I like those definitions. They seem pretty like they can cross several different types of relationships, several different types of boundaries, even if it's talking about objects, like you talked about objects, the relation between one and another. So I like those definitions, actually.
I have to be honest, I like those too. I don't think they need to be edited or corrected, as I kind of had a preference for, or a difference of opinion with the love definition. It seemed to not be as encompassing as it needed to be. Let me read this definition of companion: a person you spend a lot of time with, often because you are friends or because you are traveling together. That's what they have for companion. I'm not sure that gathers enough information of what a companion is, can be, especially in this new age world. Was somebody sharing? Okay, well, let me continue. In the era that we live in, people have a lot of different ways of communicating or relating to one another. You have so many different personalities, and men or women, we could be narcissists, we can be passive, and it affects the relationship. I've seen situations where men or women cannot do anything other than everybody around them has to do things their way, and they can't compromise. They can't see another way. I go by the principle of 7. There's so many different ways to reach 7. 4 plus 3 is 7. 3 plus 4 is 7. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. But all of them reach 7. So there's a lot of ways to accomplish a thing. There's not just one way. And there's a lot of people, they want everybody around them to do things their way. But I've also seen situations where men or women, but in a lot of times this is mostly, well, I'm not going to say that. I don't want to start a fight. There are a lot of people that cannot admit when they're wrong. They can't apologize. It just can't come out. They feel that is a big weakness. And in my opinion, being able to apologize and admit fault is a strength. But not everybody sees it that way. And that's what makes relationships difficult, one of the most difficult things that we encounter in our life and so forth. So, and what I say is the media drives a lot of this, because where do our wants and desires come from? A lot of what we learn is from the media. We wouldn't even know that a lot of things we wouldn't know without the media promoting it and so forth. I'll think of an example in a second. But this is what I want to ask the panel. In this day and age, and I asked this last time, but this is a good starting point. In this day and age of the media, with everything that they are putting out there, is it very difficult for a person to be themselves without the influence of the media? Is it very difficult for a person to be themselves without the influence of the media? Cassandra.
Yes, I think it's extremely difficult for people to be themselves because in most cases, social media has told them that being who they are is wrong or incorrect. And it's getting so much to the point now that social media influence is, in my opinion, having a negative opinion, a negative impact rather, on especially the generation 40 and under for the most part, because they don't have as much of a diversity between the generations as we do, those of us that have seen the way it was versus the way that it is. So how they kind of are looking at is the way that it is. And what has in a lot of ways were some principles and things that we lived by and that kept us grounded and kept us authentic to who we are has become gone away with. So now if you're thin, you need surgery to become more voluptuous. Plastic surgery, especially amongst our community, Black America, is through the roofs. People are distorting their bodies to the degree that it's completely unhealthy, and people are distorting themselves to where they're literally losing their lives trying to be something that the media told them that they need to be. It's dangerous when your views are attacked. A lot of people don't have thick skin, so you can have a social media person tell you the way you think about something is wrong, and a lot of people don't know how to put that in its lane. So I think it's you have self-made experts, people that have no education, no credentials. They only have charisma enough to be on camera, giving you their opinion and promoting it as an expert. You know, what makes you a relationship expert? Not because you've been married 3 times or, or you've dated 500 women and now you feel you have some viewpoint. It just makes you somebody with an opinion. But they're self-promoting as experts in areas that they have no training in, no education in. And then when you don't fit that build, then it's something wrong with you. And so I think people don't even have the liberty to be their authentic selves without being judged one way or the other. So I think social media has a great impact in that way.
I was on a trip to, I think, with Memphis with my family, and I saw a young man with a full beard, but he had blue fingernails, and he talked in a very feminine manner. I think he was caught up in between the two worlds. Is one thing to go one way, but to be caught in the two worlds, it seemed like he didn't know exactly who he was. And a lot of that comes from the TV, in my opinion, not just social media, but what, Black people are said to watch the most TV out of any group of people. And if we watch certain things without context, we can be lost in looking for our identity. Young men want an identity. They want to be somebody. They want to be somebody strong. young women too. I have 2 daughters. They want to be somebody, and so they're searching for the identity that they can be, and that there's so many different things coming at them, and if they don't have a strong foundation, they can get lost pretty deeply. Brother Javier, what you say about that?
Can I ask a question real quick? When you said 2 worlds, which 2 worlds are you speaking of?
That's a good question. I think I was simplistic. There's a lot of different communities. I was simplistic in that, saying 2 worlds. But in the context of that young man, it was either being gay or being masculine. He was showing different aspects of both. You know, he had a full beard. He looked like he was a muscle builder, but he had blue fingernails, and he was talking in a feminine manner. So that's why that ideal of mine came to me when I said that. Did you want to comment on that? Then I'll come back to Javier.
So so you said he was caught between 2 worlds, being gay and being masculine?
Yes. Is
I think
that
he
a
means
wrong?
straight.
Is that a wrong perception?
Yeah, because that would insinuate you cannot be gay and masculine.
Yeah. He mean gay or straight.
It's
Okay.
let me
I get it. Thank you, Carolyn.
I think he did kind of misspoke. I thought to myself,
I don't know if
Okay.
he misspoke or if that's what he was saying. That's why.
Well,
But I
that's
think
what
he meant gay and
I
straight.
thought. That is what I thought. But you have reminded me of
but you have
can be
you can have that.
gay
You can
and
have
be
that.
masculine at the same time, and maybe that is a way, or that is a way that some
He expresses
people.
himself.
Brother Javier, what's your comment? I'm gonna come back to
Yeah,
you, Nikita.
Yeah, actually, we can stay there right there for a few minutes because sister got something to say. I saw it in her eyes. I think that the way you're looking at his perception is because he has a full beard, fingernails painted, speaking a feminine tone. It's like we're used to seeing they say to women, dressed like a man, breast pulled down. She's still a female, but she's trying to look masculine. It's just on the flip on the male side because it's more open now. So I don't think social media per se has anything to do with it, but that community is being recognized now. You know what I'm saying? The LGBT community, they have more power than the Black man. So I think that it's your opinion. You're looking like what's wrong with him? Ain't nothing wrong with him. He want to let people know that I know I'm a man, but I'm in tune with my female side too. That's what I think.
Oh, okay.
Nikita, I come back to you.
Well, the other assumption you're making is what that person's gender is.
That's true. I only had that opportunity, and I'm speaking on the opportunity that I had to perceive him. So I recognize I did not have a full perception of who he is, but I'm giving you a glance perspective of what I saw. And in a similar situation, if I saw somebody at the DPS like that, that's where my mind would go if I saw him like that. But, and I've shared with you before, I've made some mistakes in this area. I'm trying to understand better. So there certainly could be somebody in my family that I need to understand better. And so I'm trying to understand, and this is a part of this conversation, so we all can get a greater understanding and so forth.
Because when I asked you which 2 worlds you were speaking of, I wasn't being specific. I was asking what you were talking about because I thought you were talking about man and woman, but you went in the direction of gay and masculine. And then Sister Carolyn went in the direction of gay and straight. Being gay and being a man, it's at this point in 2023, like we have LGBTQIA and all the letters, there's also so many variations of gender. And so to look at somebody, I almost think you're doing yourself a disservice to be like, what are they?
Yeah.
It's a very painful question for a lot of people because they are trying to figure it out. I have alopecia, and so going to the dermatologist, they put steroids in my scalp trying to help stimulate hair growth, but it doesn't. The steroid injections don't tell your body where to grow hair.
Oh,
You know, it's like, so I end up growing hair in other places, and for a little while, depending on the day, because I consider myself to be gender fluid, which means I don't exist in one world or the other. So I even had an issue where someone, sent me a picture saying, look how beautiful you used to be. And I'm like, I'm still beautiful. I'm just embracing the fact that I now have hair growing on my face, and what can I do about it? And a lot of Black women actually do grow hair. You could call it a beard if you want. It's very prominent in my family that we have a lot of testosterone that comes through the female line of our family. So we do have hair that grows on our chin or on our upper lip or random other places. And I know it's not a full-on beard, but I just think it's a very difficult and slippery slope to say, you're a man, you're supposed to dress like this, and you're a woman, you're supposed to dress like this, and you're walking down the street saying he's not fitting into the right world. I don't think that that's
Let me
fair
ask this
because
question. Is the perception different? And I alluded to this last time. The perception is different for a man who acts in a certain way, or who is perceived or allow his perception to be a certain way, as well as a woman. And that's why I kind of brought that up last time when I brought up that if a man goes and experiences with another man one time, he's considered that way by others. He may not consider himself that way, but if that becomes known, he's considered that way by other people. Whereas that's not necessarily the case with a female.
Can I ask a question for you to be more specific? You said go the way to be with a man. Are you saying sexually being with a man?
If he does that one time, yes, he's that way.
Okay.
What concerns me about the conversation is when you talk about perception, I think that's another way of saying assumption. And who are you to tell me who I am based upon your definition?
That is true.
So if I am
agree.
questioning and I'm with a man one time, now you perceive me to be gay. I had a traumatic experience and never want to have that again. But now for the rest of my life, other people perceive me as gay, even though I'm telling you I'm not. Just like at a time, and I hate to go here, but I can do that because I'm a Black queer person, I was not considered to be human by others because of the color of my skin. I was not considered to be that. Or me as a gender fluid person, because I'm wearing masculine presenting clothes, now I'm trying to be a man. Your perception of who I am, I understand we all have the right to assume or have perceptions and have our opinions about things. And I'm not trying to bully you into thinking one way or another, but also with you having, I have to exist this way or that way, now you're creating a box. And if I don't fit into it, now I'm not living up to a certain standard. And I don't think that's fair. Go ahead, Brother Javier.
I totally agree and understand, but the growth of the mindset, it takes some conversation and some experience. And that's one of the things I wanted to do. I mean, I'm being honest in my perception in my conversation, but I'm trying to grow that also. We're going to talk about a lot of things in this conversation. We got almost an hour. I'm going to come back to that conversation unless you had something else you wanted to share, Nikita. Okay.
I think
I
Brother
wanted to
Javier
talk
had
about this,
something,
my
though.
brother, ma'am.
I think Javier had something though.
Yes, Javier.
Yeah, I wanted to ask her, okay, with the dates and time and climate change with social existence, what's the queer? What's queer? I've heard the, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, right? That's L, right?
Yes.
So what is the queer? Because I want to get understanding.
Someone who considers themselves to be queer, again, it's personal. Some people use it because they don't necessarily fit into one of those other boxes. And some people use it because they're still figuring it out. I use it because I think it's easier because I'm gender fluid and I'm still figuring it out. I'm a person born as a female that loves humans. I'm more of a vibe person than I am what's in your pants or what if you can procreate or not from one perspective or another. So I know that's not a very specific answer, but to me, that's what queer is. It just like with all of these other things, we have our perception of what something is. It's just easier to ask that person what their personal experience is so that you're not wrong.
Yeah, but that's
One
that's
thing I
heavy to
want
walk
to
up to
say,
somebody
go ahead, Javier.
to ask. A lot of people aren't comfortable with that, So I have
A lot of people are not as comfortable asking or being asked.
kind of both on both sides. So a lot of times people don't look at situations as they are. They look at situations as they are. You get it? So some people are people persons. Some people they judgmental. Some they don't mind asking a question, and some don't mind answering
I think a lot
answering
of
a
people
question.
don't mind. I think a
Yeah,
lot of people that in the LGBT community, if you are coming from a place of interest, do not mind explaining to you where they are. And if they do mind, they probably don't know and have their defense mechanisms making them fight or flight from that conversation. You being judgmental, I can't do anything about that. That's how you're
right.
appearing in the conversation. And having somewhat of a social anxiety or an anxiety around asking, I could totally understand not wanting to ask the wrong thing and step on toes. But I think a lot of people, if you are coming from a place of curiosity versus a place of accusation or assumption, are open to having the conversation.
Well, we're very glad about that. One thing I wanted to say though is when we talk about being human, who's human, of course, in our history as Black people, we were called subhuman. So we never want to go in any direction anywhere close to that. Because we have experienced that. I know other communities that have experienced that. And that goes to the bullying that we talked about of the LGBT community, or treating them in a non-respected way, in any kind of way like that. I wanted to go into did you have a comment on what I just said before I go to the next part? Okay. I wanted to go to this. How, whatever kind of relationship we have, do we know when it's time? Let's say it's a toxic relationship. How do we know when it's time to finally leave? Because we are in the growing of trying to grow this relationship, and we know it's going to be some ups, some downs, but when is it that time that we finally know? Whatever relationship we have, my friend over there talked about fussing and fighting. Oh, wait a minute.
Fucking and
Fussing
fighting.
and loving. I'm gonna say it that way. He said it a different way.
Right.
I'm not gonna say that on
Yeah, you
here.
said fussing. I
He's
told him to
welcome
say
to
what
say
you
it.
what you can't
But
say.
when is it time that we know, hey, we got to get out of this? Carolyn.
Oh, you picking on me because I've been divorced twice.
Everybody here been divorced.
I said
Everybody
twice.
picking on you.
But in my case, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but we couldn't communicate anymore. And then, like, when I was on my way home, it's like, oh, I don't want to go home to him. It just became like he wouldn't listen. I'm saying him, he probably said the same thing about me. There was no communication. And I
Was it
didn't,
his way or the highway?
we just, I mean, no, it wasn't like that. It's just like, we went to marriage. Okay, I did go to marriage counseling. I went to marriage counseling, and we went to a preacher, and he was, it was a preacher we didn't know, right? And to me, the preacher was neutral, but he seems to like my ex-husband. He thought the preacher was siding with me, but it's because he wouldn't listen. He couldn't take the criticism. He didn't want to do the work, just based on what the preacher's saying. Because I mean, I'm not perfect. I know I have my little attitudes and stuff like that. But based on what the preacher was saying, my ex-husband didn't want to do the work. He couldn't take, I mean, the preacher's like, well, why you feel that way? He like, that's the way I was brought up. Sometimes people act like they can't compromise or bend. And if you're not willing to change to make something work, then it won't work. Because he was just set in his ways of how he was doing things, and he seemed like he couldn't change.
He didn't
So I
want
would think it was a breakdown in communication.
to him, you're saying.
Huh?
He did not want to change, and it was not worth it to him, you are saying. Is that correct?
I mean, okay, y'all don't get me wrong. I'm just saying this. Have you ever seen those old time Baptist people? I'm not Baptist, but the stereotyping of Baptists, like they so honorable, they so, religious, they so this or that. That's how he act, I've been Baptist all my life. That's how I was raised, blah, blah, blah. Some people just can't get away from that. So it was just
his way, and he didn't want to compromise his way at all. Cassandra,
he didn't want to listen to the preacher.
Okay, well, he might have felt the preacher was not perfect himself, and who is he to be telling him? But if he came to the situation with the preacher of the understanding that he was going to take something in and going to try to work and make something work, then he has to be willing to compromise.
I mean,
Cassandra, what do you say? When is the time when we need to?
You don't let me finish. Break down the communication.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish. I'll come back to her in a second.
I said the time is when there's a breakdown in communication, and people and each party really don't want it to work. It takes two to want it to work.
Don't want to listen. Don't want to listen.
Yeah.
It's like I'm saying something, other person start talking because they feel as though what they have to say is more important than what I got to say.
Right.
That type of stuff. Yeah.
And there's so much hurt that you can't hear each other. And if there's a gray area, you consider the worst about that person, and it's hard to forgive.
Have y'all heard what Michelle Obama said about her marriage to Barack Obama? She said for 10 years she didn't like him.
Yeah.
So isn't it something that you have to go through with the person if you really love them? So in that context, when is it really time? How do you know? Cassandra, are you there?
I am.
So how do you know? I mean, Michelle Obama, the beacon of Black motherhood, Black woman, said she didn't like the president for 10 years, but she hung in there, and now they basking in the glow. So how do you know that you are just giving up too soon?
I literally was having this exact conversation today with one of my clients. I think it's idiosyncratic to the relationship itself, and it's not an issue of vetting. All of us are divorced, and I don't think when I would start my conversation, and this is no shade or no chastisement, I'm just being real with where I'm coming from. I would never deal with what was wrong with my ex-husband. When I start the conversation, I'm always looking at what I brought to the relationship that caused the relationship to fail. One thing that I noticed even with my clients, we always go to what's wrong with somebody else. And I think we have to start with what did we bring to the table, and the foundation of the relationship that causes demise first. I never deal with was what Terry's issues were. I deal with what my own issues were. When you are looking at whether or not you stay or whether or not you go is not, I will never tell any client of mine to that it's time for a divorce, it's time for sale, or you should leave him or her, unless that person is being severely emotionally abused, or physically abused. If they're having just issues and struggles and communication issues and things like that, there's never going to be something I'm going to say or even suggest.
Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Let me ask this. If you as a couple, y'all had a fight and it came to a point where one pulled a knife and called the police, is that time to go?
That's time to go. If there's physical abuse, which is what I was stating, physical abuse or severe emotional abuse is the only time that I personally would tell a couple. I'm not, judging anybody else or how they do or what they do. I'm saying me with my clients. That's the only time I personally am going to suggest that they may need to go a separate way, even if it's for a season. I think everybody's line of where that is and everybody's level of tolerance of what they're
It's different.
willing to go through and endure is idiosyncratic. Relationships, and I think this is the big thing today. Well, does he make you happy or does she make you happy? When happiness in relationships, for the most part, is going to be very significantly few and far between with the dynamics that relationships have to undergo today. And so we are seeking a utopia a lot of times that's not realistic, a lot of times in the dynamic of relationship. Hallmark movies are movies. They're not real. Harlequin romances may sound good to the read, but it generally doesn't work like that in real life. When real life shows up, you're gonna deal with on the other side of 35 or 40, you'll have way more challenging days than you have those wonderful days of bliss. And I think we're selling a narrative about being happy and all of these things that all of these self-proclaimed experts promote that's not real. What Michelle Obama said, and first of all, I commend her greatly for being that transparent in the first place, not trying to promote a narrative that's not real. And I love everything that she said and promoted in both of her books around that, because that's the reality. You ebb and flow in relationships. Sometimes you don't want to go home. Sometimes you don't want to see their face. Sometimes they're going to touch you and your whole body is going to tighten up and cringe, or to make love to them or have sex is going to be a tormenting situation. There's still not going to be, for some people, time to leave. For some people, it might be. I think that your ability to endure both the mountaintops and the valleys, all of it is going to be a reality in a marriage and everything in between. And so as you weigh, you get there. I look at couples that were tremendously challenged for many years, and now that we're old enough and I can evaluate the other side, the whole dynamic is very different and nurturing. And had they walked out 20 years ago, they wouldn't be enjoying what they're enjoying today, as we see, with the Obamas and many other couples. I think it just depends on self-analyzation. What's my fault in this? What's wrong with what I can do to help change and make it better? self-reflecting. I'm big on self-analyzing. I don't look a lot at what was wrong with Terry. I look at me and I look at how I could have done things differently. But I think at the end of the day, where there's no real abuse and there's a level of respect, it's just differences in personalities and worldviews and things of that nature. It all boils down to what the couple itself, the end of willing to endure. I asked one of my clients yesterday, do you see yourself filing for divorce? And he said, no, I don't. And he's absolutely unhappy in this marriage, but he doesn't see himself filing. So it's very idiosyncratic. And I don't think there's a dynamic outside of what each person feels that their line is of demarcation as to what they can and cannot endure.
Well, thank you very much. That was very, very full of information. Javier,
Yes,
talk
sir.
about when it's time, man.
Ooh, when it's time, it's hard to say. Of course, I believe in if it's very physical abuse, definitely. So I believe in any relationship, both parties going to put each other through some type of emotional or mental stress. I believe when respect, and that respect goes elsewhere, I think it's time out. Whistle blow, give each other some time to breathe or even miss each other if you do miss each other. But physically, when the ambulance pulling up and it's knives and guns and blood, it's time to go. In my experience, I've been divorced for over 15 years. I got to the point with my ex-wife and I where it's like we had a great opportunity to build this relationship, but we tore it up. It was too much pain, and when there's no forgiveness,
Yeah.
but also both parties, they have to be self-checking, because of the person in the mirror, that's the only person that you can correct. So if the other person, doing the same self-work, it's a possibility it can work. But I think when blood shed, it's time to go.
I see a lot of times where couples, they went ahead and gave it up. For instance, Snoop Dogg remarried his first wife. They got divorced, then he went back and married her. Shaquille O'Neal has talked about how he messed up in the marriage, and he wished he had another opportunity. So there's some reflection, there's some understanding of that, but people still say, hey, I got to get out of here. Now they might regret it. And as Cassandra said, we get older, we reflect, we understand, we say, okay, well, if I can correct that, I will, if the other party is willing. What you say about when it's time, Carolyn?
I was just wondering why nobody was touching on adultery. Because y'all talk about physical abuse and stuff like that, which is supposed to be rehabilitating. But usually, I think most people walk when someone commit adultery than the physical abuse. Because I work in law enforcement, and nobody really says that I read that it was the physical abuse. Most people say it was them cheating. And I was just curious why nobody really touched on like that, because that when you cheat, it's a lot to that. It's the line, this is disrespectful, it's just a lot into that. It's a lot into adultery than it is in beating someone up.
Yeah.
You brought it up, Nikita. In your
the
practice,
bloodshed.
what do you see about that? Do you see people leaving because of cheating or what we talked about, the abuse?
Of course. There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Financial is a big one. I
Yeah.
think financial is amongst the top of the list, actually, how one person handles money or appreciates money or does not. Infidelity, when you talk about lying, what I go to for evaluating healthy relationships is about alignment. And a really quick caveat, when we reference celebrities, and your first couple of questions or comments was about us being in kind of persuaded by the media, and they're a part of that cog. So as transparent as she's being, there's still a narrative there. There's still plenty of things unsaid. When we look at a celebrity's life and how they tell us the good stuff that gets us buying their books, and
Yep.
now we're all quoting, oh, Michelle Obama and Obama made it, or President Obama made it after 10 years. But that's very, as Cassandra was saying, idiosyncratic to their story. And we don't know, are they even happy now? Because if I'm with somebody and I think he's about to be president, and he messes the money, messes around with some girl and all these things, I can't tell you I wouldn't still be there. And that doesn't equate to happiness, or that doesn't equate to a healthy relationship. Who knows how big the White House was if they were ever in the same room? You know, so
Yeah, good point.
And they make millions off of their word.
right.
So you got they have so many counselors, and what they call them, it's not a counselor. It's basically they coach them until how we need you guys to look for the optics and all of the stuff there. So this is professional, baby.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
all
So
about the money.
yeah. So
and I do think it's a great story to reference, that if it is completely true with Shaquille O'Neal and Snoop Dogg. I do think when we think about divorce and we're fighting and we're fighting and we're fighting for a relationship, it feels very final, but it doesn't always have to be. And I think that's something we have to take into consideration, because when I talk to couples about maybe it's time, my divorce, I had to think, okay, I see potential. And I think a lot of us marry potential, a lot of us date potential, a lot of us have sex with potential. And I I have seen, because I'm a therapist and I am very like, oh, I see, like, if you just do this and this and this, it will be great. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to be here for you. But they don't do nothing.
that
And
theory, a book, right? That real life,
yes,
something else, right? Close the page.
yes. So like, I teach people now, like, okay, everyone has potential. Everyone has potential to change, but they also have the potential to stay the same. And I'm looking at you and I'm evaluating, judging if you want to say, I'm looking at you and evaluating, to me, looking through a lens of discernment. So if I'm looking through a lens of discernment, is this person both willing and able to show up the way I need them to show up to be my partner for the long term? Now, having the potential of that is one thing, and your limitation on how long you can wait for potential to show up, I think no one should judge, because compassion fatigue is a real thing. Okay, you have depression, you have anxiety, I'm loving you through your stuff, but like, what are you doing about it? Are you going to therapy? Are you taking your meds? I can only be here for so long if you have not shown up for yourself as your partner. So if I'm telling you, I really need effective communication, I really need sex once a week, I really need you to let me go out and like do my career and you help me, and none of these things are being met for 10 years, when you could say, I'm looking at what this person is showing me today, and maybe for past year or 2 or 3, and like, I'm tired, and that's okay, because it's not necessarily final. But my question to myself was, if this person never changes, is this who I want to be with for the next 50 years? And it's pardon the expression, but I said, hell no. If he stayed the same, the way he's treating me and the way our relationship is, communication, I'm out here working, you're not doing anything to bring things home. No. And so if he decided after losing me, looking back and said, oh, I need to do some things different. I need to go back to school or start my business or actually do the things I've been talking about. And he came back and I said, wow, I see changes in you. I'm not going to force you to change because those are usually short-lived.
Yeah.
If I see changes, I see a real opportunity for me to now reevaluate using my current place of discernment, because hopefully I have also changed.
Yeah.
So the old me, you might not even like me anymore.
Right.
Not to mention the new me, I might not like you.
Right.
So I think we need to come to the present moment of who we are and where we are. Because infidelity, although it can be crushing and it's very difficult to get trust back to have a healthy relationship moving forward, it can be moved through. Us having different ideas about money, sometimes we bring into the relationship our lack or our ignorance around different topics. So we're going to therapy, we're going to classes, those things can change. Personality, habits, those are very different, difficult to change. So I'm looking at and helping people to coach, look, as your therapist, I'm not trying to save your relationship. I'm trying to help you get clarity about what's important to you and what is needed for this relationship to be healthy. I'm here to help you learn better coping skills, communication styles, how to listen better. Now, what you do with that is up to y'all. And if you find this person's not willing and able to show up the way you need, then let me help you create some more options for yourself.
Or if you're not willing, because it starts like Michael Jackson told us, it's the man in the mirror, all the way from the biblical, all of this stuff. It's this mindset, perceptive. They tell you on the airplane, put your mask on first, and then help somebody else. See, a lot of people, they see broken people, they want to fix them. I want to fix them. I'm going to fix them. If they just do this and they just do that, I can help them. But they forget about themselves. They put themselves inside somebody else. But that's deep. Brother B?
Yes, it's a very interesting conversation, a lot of real informative tidbits. We are close to the end of our show. We can add a little bit more, make a final statement, and share as much as you want to on that final statement. Share some more information if you would like. We've been talking about different relationships, different lifestyles, and we've crossed the gamut. We've talked about the LGBT community and different things in that, and how different terms and how things are perspectives, different ways of looking at things. I learned a lot in that conversation. We talked about, when is it time to go? When is it time to leave? I would say that is an individual thing, because yes, for the most part, on the outside looking in, when you see people fighting, you say, well, why are they putting up with that and so forth? It could be a lot of reasons. And money is a big thing with that. But some people will agree the man take care of all the bills because the lady provides a service. Now, if she feels he respects her, what she does, that works for them. So I'm hesitant on ever saying when somebody should leave, because we are not inside their circle of what's going on. But I just say that. I want to get our final statements. Share what you will. Javier, would you like to go first?
My mic's still on, yeah. So we touched on so many things, from the straight, the gay, the queer, what have you, our relationships, when it's time to go, touching on the marital side. I think infidelity can be forgiven. I had that in my past marriage, moved 700 miles from where I lived to start over, and found out that she was still in the same thing. We made a pact, a deal, handshake, and everything. And I found out she didn't stop. Rideout.com. That's what I did. Anyway, to the point of looking at people viewing them as far as their sexuality, they're living themselves. I'm homophobic. Excuse my own, y'all. I haven't been on a platform like this in some time. You can just look at people, how they treat you. That's it.
Yeah.
So colors and clothes, that's people expressing themselves. It's a joke. I think was it Chris Rock? He got to speaking about a woman with the clear heels and dressed with a short dress on and showing her breasts and all that stuff here. And then he flipped the joke, like, if you saw me walking down the street with a cop uniform, if you in trouble, you're gonna say, officer, please help me. You're like, oh, I'm not a cop, I just got the uniform on. You feel me? So this the content of people character, So you got people that are thieves. They may not look like it. They are politicians. They're the car salespeople. They're the insurance people. They thieves. But then I got to tell you, well, I'm here to steal from you. We got the banks. We paying car notes and house notes and all of this stuff here. So this content of people character, know what your toleration is. When it's time to go, when you can't take it no more. When you like, man, fuck that house, I ain't going over there no more. they go get you another residence and buy you some more clothes and everything and change your mail. It's time to go. I'm gone. Thank you so much, Mr. B, for this opportunity to talk and hear the topic of suggestion, a thought, and all these ladies with these degrees. I got degrees in life, baby.
Would you like to share how people can get in touch with you if you're open to that? Did you hear me?
Who did you ask that to?
Huh? Yeah, I'm asking you. Would you like to share? Can they contact you on Facebook or wherever?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm on Facebook. Javier, Mr. Keep It Sexy. On Facebook, Javier. No, Mr. underscore K.S. So that's the thing of keeping it sexy. And it's keeping it sexy is a thing of treating people well. You see a mother struggling with her children, her bags and stuff. You help her get them off the car. See a old lady on her cane and she can't get to that door. You go and help that door. That's the meaning of sexy. I live by like my brother. He don't have a lawnmower. His grass need cut because it's grass. So
peace and power, brother.
That's that power, piece of power. Also, jav.shelly@yahoo.com. I appreciate you ladies, everybody's thoughts. And like as my brother say, peace and power. But I add love on that. Peace, love, and power.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Sister Carolyn.
Oh, I was thinking about the time to leave thing. My parents was married for 60-some years, and the effort of not leaving, I think you should think about the kids.
The long term.
Because when you stay together a long time, and the marriage is something, I'm not gonna say what all it is, but you really can damage the kids. That's all I have to say.
And can I add something on top of that? It's the stick-to-itiveness, and then the beginning question is about social media. They didn't have social media. It was a telephone, telegram, or tell a nigga. That's how word got around. So it wasn't sticking around the internet and seeing somebody body, boobs, and you can inbox them and say something they way in California. It wasn't that stuff. So they had what's in front of them and protect what they had. And money wasn't a thing that make us so greedy. Wealth is something else.
Yeah, nothing's people come in relationship broken. So that's another aspect to it, broken people come into relationships with issues, and it's just a lot. So
Hurt
when it
people
comes
hurting
to when
people,
to
right?
leave, it's just a lot into people that you don't know until you actually live with them, So just I thought
Now
I would just
that
say
is
that.
very, very true.
I just
You
have to
don't
say
know somebody
that.
until you live with them.
When you
That's
said
always been the case.
when you
Yes,
said
that's
that
very true.
for the kids, are you saying staying when you're like in a loveless marriage or not staying for the kids?
I say you shouldn't stay if you're doing all that. If you're fighting, if infidelity, I mean, you're doing all that, but you're trying to save the marriage for whatever reason, but you're damaging the kids because we're watching, And I guess
Yeah.
that's why I have divorces, because I'm not gonna be doing this to my kids, That's just a personal way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I looked at it. I'm not gonna be putting my kids through that.
I think calendar years too. Depending how old someone is. Say you come out of high school, you get married, 18, 19 years old. You growing, and you have offsprings, and they're watching the two of mom and dad grow. They don't know each other, but we have a baby, and let's get married and start a family. You don't know yourself yet.
Yeah.
So
That's all I have to say.
yeah. We this thing go on and on. I'm telling you.
I know, right?
So
This
Carolyn, do you
conversation
want
is.
to leave communication, how to get in touch with you? You don't have to.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
I'm good.
Cassandra, can you make your final point?
Yes, again, thank you for having me and allowing me to participate. My Facebook is Cassandra Barnes, RN for registered nurse. My practice page is the Victoria Barnes Mental Health and Wellness Center. That's also on Facebook, and my Instagram is the real Cassandra Barnes. I think it is RN, I think. But I want to say this, when you're looking at relationships with whatever flavor it comes in, be it heterosexual or be it I'm sorry, I get the letters mixed
Yeah,
up, but
we understand.
the other alternatives that we have, at the end of the day, it's love, honor, respect.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you're going to have issues. You're gonna have conflict. We humans are flawed. The Bible says the heart is wicked above all, who can know it. That's a real statement. It's not whether they're Christian or not, a Muslim or Hindu. Human behavior is very, very, very similar across cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds. I've dealt with all of it as a nurse and a therapist. So the line for what people will and will not tolerate rests with them. There is not issues outside of that. If you look at Viola Davis, the actress, and listen to her audiobook, it just literally makes you cringe, because it's probably her and Will Smith have two of the best audiobooks I've ever heard. Biographies was phenomenal, but the level of abuse that her mother endured at the hand of her father, I just can't even fathom as a reality for any human being. But yet that's their story, and they are still together. And so the only people that have the barometer for what people will and will not tolerate is that particular couple. And nobody actually has the right. I don't tell my clients when it's time to go unless there's some serious abuse in that situation, short of physical. Okay. I think that's something that could get very dangerous and actually cost somebody their life. So, for her and a lot of other couples, they tolerate adultery, they tolerate physical abuse, they tolerate verbal abuse. Everybody have their own line of demarcation, and it's completely idiosyncratic. What you have to know is what are those deal breakers for you.
Right.
And I will end with this. I think that when we start off, when we deal with why our marriages didn't work and we're talking about the other person, I think we should rethink that, because it's, and again, this is not shade or chastisement or even disrespect, but I think it is somewhat a form of arrogance and pride when we look at the other person before looking at ourselves. We all have issues. Anybody over 21, I don't care who you are, what you are, in my opinion, needs some level of therapy anyway, if they've even gotten to 21. We all have issues. We all have shortcomings. We all have wounded other people. And many of us, we're not the perpetrators, we're the victims. But we're quick to say what's wrong with somebody else. And I think that's something that needs to change. I think we need to look at what our contribution is to the breakdown and work on that, and before we're telling everybody else what's wrong with them. But I think, again, it's a journey, and it's about where your line of demarcation is, and whether or not is worth it. There are a lot of dynamics. When you've been in a relationship for 40 years, you've built a lot of things that your happiness may not be worth you walking away from material or financial wealth that you may have, a stability that you may have. Some people get used to certain dynamics. So it's hard to be in a relationship for 30 years and now I'm looking at having to start all over again. I was only married 4 years. I've been divorced 25. I've never been remarried. My ex-husband has never been remarried. But it probably would be hard for me if I was married 30 years to look at, okay, I'm not happy and now I want to start all over again. I don't know, that's not my story, but I'm just saying, none of us have a right to tell somebody else how they should manage their own life and their own relationship, whether we understand it or we don't. So thank you again so much for having me. As always, it's been a tremendous discussion, very diverse opinions, which always makes a good discussion. And I look forward to doing it again sometime. So
Well, thank you very much.
Close.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention again, this is the 131st episode of the Source Seeker Hour. We have been doing this for quite a while. We started in the studio. If you look at my background, you see Cassandra on the background right there. That was in the studio. That was probably episode 35 or so forth. So we've been doing this for a while. I want to mention that next episode is June 1st. We do it every 2 weeks. And our next episode will be hope, expectations, and mental health. And we're going to have a diverse panel to share that. And we do a lot of work with mental health because our mental health is very important. I've had some issues with that before, my family. So we want to keep that on the forefront as we do issues across the board. A lot of different issues that come up in our community that we all want to talk about and discuss. And with that, I want to turn it over to Coach Nikita to finish our episode here. We thank you and share whatever you want to share. And we thank you very much.
I had 2 couples come in today, actually. And I talked to them about understanding really what it is that is important to them, or us trying to get an understanding of what they want and what is important to them. And a lot of people, when I pose that question, don't really have an answer because they're going into relationships thinking we love each other and that's going to be enough. And a lot of people get into either toxic or incompatible situations, in my opinion. And instead of really evaluating what's important to me and what is it that I need, they come from a perspective of, I love this person and I want to stay with them, so I'm going to do anything I possibly can to make this relationship work, versus building a solid foundation. And that includes lying, either lying because you're manipulative or lying because you've learned it's not safe to be honest. And so from that perspective, it's when I'm asking you, are you okay? Saying yes when you're not, or am I doing this right? Not necessarily setting boundaries, nor talking about what I actually want and what I actually need. I'm saying the things that I think I need to say to make my relationship work or stay together. And in doing that, we're not building necessarily a solid foundation. We're trying to do what we can to make the relationship work, versus find compatibility with somebody by being truthful and transparent about what I want and what I need. And so one thing we didn't really get to talk about when we talk about infidelity or being sexually particularly not in alignment is that sometimes people bring or they don't talk about the fact that they're not sexually satisfied, or that they're looking at other people, and that poly situation or dating, having an open marriage or open relationship does not come onto the table because they're not necessarily being transparent about what they want or need. So maybe for a future conversation, talking about the poly open part of alternative lifestyles, which are really frowned upon by like the church or by open religious, but is happening in the church or by religious folks, if we could get to a place of understanding about what is actually wanted and needed. And if there is a transparent conversation about that, there might be leeway made, and there might not be leeway made, and you're finding that you're incompatible with that person. And so I think we should be developing solid foundations, because we're talking about when is it appropriate or when is the right time to leave. But I think we need to do a lot more about what does a healthy relationship even look like? What do I do with red flags at the beginning? Because we fight through red flags because we're in love and we're blinded by trying to make really bad situations work, when you're doing this for 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years because you don't know any better. You
So
don't know that what. Go ahead.
Forcing that triangle to fit in that circle.
Right. You be speaking my language. We friend. We
See?
so yes.
Yeah.
And I talk about putting your oxygen mask on first as well. So I was like, yeah, go ahead. But
Yeah, put it
yes,
right in your face. Simple.
trying
Simplicity.
to
Simplicity.
yes.
It's so simple.
Trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole or triangle, instead of recognizing I'm a triangle and you're a square, either, and being more transparent about what you want. Because a lot of times what I'll say, well, did you actually tell them that's how you're feeling or that's what you need? Well, I didn't say that because it was going to cause an argument. Well, duh.
You cause
You're
the war by saying nothing.
incompatible, or you're not able to communicate with this person because you have different communication styles, and either we need to work on the skill set or you're not compatible. And so forcing yourself because you're loving each other, and of course, with the caveat of what is important to you. So if financial stability, having a partner to help raise your children, having someone to help go through this world is more important than compatibility or love or happiness, then I'm not going to say, no, you're wrong. But I need you to understand what your priorities are and what you want and what you need. So you can make a conscious decision that I'm not happy here, but I'm going to stay because this is what I want to do, versus being manipulated into or not knowing that leaving is actually an option. Because I think a lot of times that comes from a self-love perspective of who's going to love me at 50, 60, 70, who's going to be with me, not understanding the value that you have and how beautiful and wonderful you are. And I'm not that age to know what it's like to be that and going through divorce. But I think if we're looking more on the front end of developing with this next generation or people who are divorced and going into their next iteration of marriage, knowing what is on the list of what I want and what I need, and being really honest, especially in conversations that are uncomfortable, to say, if I can't say this to this person, then how safe or how strong is my relationship really? If I have to tiptoe and tap on eggshells about how I'm feeling and what I need, how strong is what you're trying to save? So I am a relationship, individual therapist, life coach, and I would love to work with anybody who is willing to walk on that journey with me. I put into the chat my contact information. My website is tackleyourdreams.com. And I can be found at the Coach Kita on Facebook as well as Instagram. I think that therapy can be scary because of the unknown, but it can literally just be a conversation with somebody who is reflecting back to you your thoughts and feelings in a way that you can't do for yourself. I think that mental health is a mental injury. And if we were to equate that to a physical injury, there would not be as much stigma around going to an expert to try to fix an injury based upon things that have happened to you or are happening to you. So down with the stigma and up with mental health care. And I
That's
think
a whole conversation, how to get past the stigma in mental health. That's it's been a big stigma, especially in the Black community also. And a part of what we do on the Source Seeker Hour is try to bring that to the forefront and have discussions about it. We've had many on here and we will have many more. I want to say thank you to all the panelists. Carolyn had to leave, but I'll talk to her later and you can check her out online and talk to her also. I want to say again, this is our 131st episode. Thank everybody who's been following us along the line and so forth. And we will be back in 2 weeks with the show Hope, Expectations, and Mental Health. And I say thank you, and we will see you next time.